This video here has been making the rounds recently on a few popular channels. Now, normally, when the question of marriage comes up, divorce specifically here, it's always the same story. Oh, she'll take half your stuff, 50% gone. Oh, it doesn't matter what, she'll rob you blind. This one tackles the same subject, but a little different topic.
In a world full of loonies and fools, there remains but one voice of reason. Ghost must past, handsome, bold, and refined.
They told me that they were moving to another state before they did. From another creator last night that made an interesting point. That during my marriage, I was the best man ever. I was the most supportive husband ever. I was the most supportive dad ever. I coached flag football. I coached wrestling for 6 years while my little boys were wrestling. I coached youth basketball while my oldest daughter was on that team. I hauled my kids everywhere for their youth.
Sounds like he's got his dating profile fired up here, all his accolades.
Youth rodeos. We practiced for 4-H shows and rodeos almost every day through the summer. I was their roping coach. I was the one who shod their horses. Was also their horse dentist, and I was the mechanic and the farmer and the initial dog trainer in our dog.
The greatest man of all time, of course. Now, in the interest of fairness here, we must also weigh in on the fact that it is one side of the story here. Perhaps a little biased. Maybe.
Dog business, and I was the one who worried about finding the pallets of dog food that we used in our business. I was the one tasked with finding the hay for all the horses and feeding the cows and calving out the cows, and I was the superstar.
He had to cut it off there.
Until we got divorced.
Now, to be clear here, he is not saying these as if the man himself were calling these names and accolades, bestowing them on himself. To be clear, this is things the wife was saying about him while they were married.
And then I was banished to my RV trailer in our driveway.
Banished.
And then I was a dangerous dad. I wasn't an abusive dad, but I was coined dangerous. She told the kids that I would be a danger to her.
And that is the subject that really got me thinking here, because you always hear about the divorce and taking assets and money and all that. But this is another side of it that when I started reading the comments, you realize is far, far more frequently used and commonplace than others might have suspected. So if we just expand this out here, let me go through a few of these, and you see the men talking about it. Oh, you, me, and so many other men have exactly the same story, and to boot, the children get turned against us. Those types of comments I started seeing on here of men, similar circumstances, saying, hey, wait a minute, that happened to me too. Oh, it's a story, same for ages. They can't say they're divorcing a great guy because people will question them and hold them accountable, so they need to twist the narrative. And that does factor in to why that might be the case, because think of it here. They hate the divorce laws, yes. The red pill, the manosphere say, do not even consider marrying a woman in today's age. Don't ever sign a contract where the other side gets rewarded for breaking it. That sort of wholesome, pleasant talk. But that's playing fair. What they are rallying against is fair play. That is simply someone utilizing the laws as they are written in place. Whereas this here is somebody not doing this. Here is somebody seeing the game and thinking, God, I don't know if I like playing that. It seems kind of, I'm not that good at it. Well, what if I cheat? What if I craft up a false story? What if I all of a sudden turn? So it goes from utilizing the law and the court system in a fair play, a good-spirited, competitive nature, you might even say, to all of a sudden, wait a minute, I got a little idea. And it is usually women who file that sort of thing. Statistically, misogynist. You can rant and rave all the feminist delusions you want in my inbox here, but it does not change the fact, first off, the high rate of divorce filed by women. Secondly, when it comes to, here we are, let's find out, the allegations put forth and who is doing that sort of thing. So we bring up this from a book here, The Real World Divorce 2017, Custody, Child Support, and Alimony. I'm just going to read this chapter, a little bit of it here. Domestic Violence Parallel Track. So what it means here is allegations of abuse or danger pop up. You think, well, why would that come about? Why would they want to do that? Well, for one, I think we all know it is a manner of self-preservation for the woman. When they see control slipping away, when they see power, oh God, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose that, what am I going to do? And the immediate notion is to do anything at all to try to regain some of that. So, let me do a little sniff. That's just to save your ears. Now, your typical divorce plaintiff, this is a reading from the story here, wants four things: the house, the kids, the husband's paycheck, and freedom to spend time in the house with her boyfriend. Oh, scandalous. Said one attorney, it might take her 2 years to get to that point in the family court with accompanying legal fees. She can get there in a day through the domestic abuse system, probably without spending a dime. All that she needs to learn to say is, I'm afraid of him. She gets a house, the kids, and money every month without ever having to give evidence, be cross-examined, or bring any additional witnesses to corroborate. So what that means is the women can craft up a story of abuse and take that into court on, and here they're talking about protective orders, restraining orders, and that sort of thing, which in basically all cases, the women show up. There is no man present. He's not alerted of it. He's not given a chance of testimony, and there's no testify, I should say. He doesn't have any testimony to give because he's no longer present. So they can show up, and the women give their story, and you got to imagine the whole system here. So one might argue or assume, well, oh, if they're showing up down there, they must have some sort of evidence. The judges aren't just going to pass these things off here, grant them for no reason. But that is where you are wrong. If you even scroll through here and look at the facts on the matter, I'll just give you the rundown here, is that put yourself in the position of a judge on it. These aren't federal ones appointed for the long tenures on here. These are ones that can be removed. So they get sat on there. Somebody comes in with a case saying, oh, please help me, please, he's dangerous, he's abusive, and all that good stuff. I mean, bad stuff. So the judge looks in there, and they think, boy, I need to save my own ass here. If I say no, and I don't allow it to go through, and then something happens, that's reflected back on me here. Where if I grant it, and nothing happens, or who cares? The guy got a little thrown out for a little while, couldn't see the kids, who knows what. Doesn't really matter. So from that perspective, you see why so many of these are granted here with such minimal evidence or anything like that. So the women go in there. And another quote from this section here, from an attorney, a female attorney here, she says, I was a feminist in college and got into this to help women and children escape domestic violence, she told us. But after a few years, I learned that women who are actually being abused don't hire lawyers. They just pack up the kids and run away to a relative's house in another state. The only women who hire me are the ones who want money. Further on, if a litigant can establish that she has been physically abused or the children have been SA'd, then she can obtain sole custody. Why does Sullivan say she? And she responds, I have never seen a man try this. which once again goes statistically. You see women are filing this sort of thing, so by labeling someone a danger, an abuser, it's just like a front row seat to the line. They don't have to get a bunch of evidence. They just need to testify. And they hope that they can spring it on the man. He gets something, shows up on the porch, kicked out of the house, removed from the children. He doesn't have time to get an attorney to try to spring it. Surprise, honey. Happy birthday. Good old trap. She's always been such a prankster, that one. Oh, classic sense of humor. Now they're kicked out of the house. You see these men on here, TikTok, and you read in the comments. It's such a commonplace. So that is another factor. What they wish to do is bleed the men dry by hoping they have no resources. They have no knowledge on how to combat this sort of thing. And it starts off the women on a lovely position heading into the divorce proceedings where they have secured the leverage point by simply saying a few words, not having to testify or give any evidence at all. And what really bothers me here about it, what really bothers me, not just that the men are victims of this sort of false accusations and things, but the system is now being abused by fabricators. They're not in danger. They are utilizing resources and making it so when women who actually are being abused come forward, they are going to be seen with a lot more skepticism because others have abused the system so often, so callously. And you can imagine if you had a daughter or some sister, mother, whoever, was actually being put in a situation like that of a dire consequence, and she comes forward, you would hate to have her claims dismissed on it. And that's the damaging part here. It destroys the credibility of women as a whole when these are abused like this, and it really is a terrible thing all around. Now, of course, it is a dreadful situation for the men to be placed in, but anytime a liar, an extorter basically gets in there and starts fabricating a narcissist, or we'll say that type of personality, it just shreds. Everything gets destroyed on it. Without any sympathy, without any consideration for others. Now, I wanted to read this other part in here on it. It says, judges question the ulterior motives of women bringing domestic violence cases. They are often considered manipulators and liars, intent on using the court to achieve some wrongful purpose, such as revenge or advantage in the divorce case. Judge Susan Scott of the Superior Court in New Jersey was uncommonly candid in discussing this problem. She admitted that it was difficult to discern which claims of domestic violence were true because the word around the underground was that domestic violence claims were fabricated to evict men from their homes using protective order statutes. That's what you see here. This is my commentary interjected now. All the comments, oh yeah, dude, oh yeah, bro, same story, oh, he basically wrote my autobiography. Same things coming up, and what is the common theme we spot? Is that the men are lauded, applauded, congratulated, cheered on during the marriage itself, and then, when it becomes convenient, when divorce seems imminent, the women have now a brand new story about this terrible man they were strapped to for years. Done something god-awful. Back to the quote here. It is also an unfortunate truth that because they are incredibly easy to obtain, now, as I mentioned, because of the judges up there not wanting to be in trouble, having to come back on them, yes, it's pretty much always granted initially. It is also an unfortunate truth that because they are incredibly easy to obtain, orders of protection are misused often against men, and this false practice clogs the system unnecessarily, preventing true victims from having their cases thoroughly examined and depleting victim assistance resources. There are between 2 and 3 million temporary restraining orders issued in the United States annually, despite the huge impact on a person's emotional and financial well-being. In order to receive a temporary stay-away order of protection, is this on the screen still? One needs only to allege that he or she feels threatened by their partner. There does not need to be any history of domestic violence whatsoever. There does not need to have been an actual verbal threat of domestic violence either. Likewise, there does not need to be evidence of a major overt act, such as stalking or purchasing a weapon. These orders are granted with barely any accountability as to the facts alleged, although they often include a stay-away provision from minor children. So there you have it. Something so easily obtained, so diabolical, and yet the consequences for doing so, you would imagine, would be just astronomical. You wouldn't want somebody making false claims like that, would you? When they'd have to be sent to prison for 30 years. Out on the workforce, you see them up there picking up litter bugs, trash on the side of the freeway. But no, actually, it's very minimal. Very minimal. So the reason why these women filed it is because what they stand to gain, the risk versus reward here, what they stand to gain if everybody believes it and they are thrown out, the man is thrown out, why he's basically just a evicted piggy bank that has to come by and empty out the old trough every once in a while, every month. And the women get to keep all the assets, and the children, they basically get off scot-free for that. And if they are found to be liars even, what happens? What is the negative in that situation? Well, it's actually not a whole lot. Oh, don't do that. You silly goose. You shouldn't have done that. What were you thinking? Come on. People actually are being abused. You can't make up that kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah. How much money do you want again? That's often how it goes. Because the men, once again, they don't know how to defend it. They don't have the money for the attorney. So they are being punished and screwed over from the very get-go, all due to fabricated cases. And we already read that summary on there. From a variety of attorneys in different jurisdictions, we heard variations of the same statement. The most effective way for a female plaintiff to kick off a divorce, custody, or child support lawsuit is to say, after I told him that I wanted to leave, he threatened me, and now I am afraid of him. Look out, boys. Look out, boys. And gals, teach your daughters about this nonsense, because it's only one factor. The red pill talks about losing assets, losing money. But this is a whole other section here that seems to be a lot more common when you dive into the research on it than one might be led to believe. So, until next time, boys and gals, Ghostmas, as always, taking a little break. I'll use my playoff song here. Stay with myself.